All right, let's try part B of that question next. Now, it's a little bit tricky. Okay. There's a method in here that we're gonna have to figure out. As we do part B, one of the things you need to notice, and this is common, we've seen this in other AP questions. It says right there, the helper method, find part, has to be used as you write your answer. You got to do it. You paid money to take this test, right? You're trying to get college credit. You're trying to pass the test, get a good score. So you got to play by their rules. If they're telling you you've got to use this method, find part, and your part be answer, then you got to use it. Okay? It doesn't matter. You could write the greatest code on earth to take a string and encode it into an array list of string parts. But if you're not using that method, find part, you're not going to get the points on this question. The kids that took this test, they don't know how this method works. They don't know exactly what its process is. Doesn't matter. Don't care. Don't even worry about it. Don't even think about it. Just try to figure out what the method does. According to this method, if you give it a string, it'll take it to the master string and attempt to turn it into a string part. Now, if you give it a 50-letter word, it's probably not going to find that 50-letter sequence in the master string. So it's going to start at the beginning. And from the beginning of the string, it's going to create the biggest string part that it can. And it's going to come back to us encapsulated as a string part. So it's going to have a start, it's going to have a length, okay, put into that string part class. And it's always going to start at the beginning. So for example, let's say that we had a string frozen and we wanted to call the find part method on this string frozen. Okay, so if I called find part on frozen, what it's going to do is it's going to start at the beginning with that letter F, and it's going to work its way through this string looking for a letter F. Now it finds a letter F right here at index 29. I don't see any other letter Fs, but it's not going to just stop right there. Then it's going to see, can I get the letter FR? Can I get the sequence FRO? Can I get FROZ? No. So what it would do is it would stop right there, FRO. Okay, that's the best it can do. And so this would come back to us as a new string part. And this string part in particular would have a start of 29 and a length of 3. Now, our goal is to not quit right there. That's what the method already does. Our goal in part B is to take it a little bit further. And now we try to go and get the ZEN. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to write code that once it recognizes it found a 3-letter sequence as a string part, I would want to recreate this step again into like a separate method call, okay? And I would want it to pick up right where it left off. In other words, with ZEN. Now, if I sent that to find part, it's going to create a string part of it. I only see one letter Z in here, okay? It's at index 5. There's not an E after it. So this now would come back to me. It would say, here's a string part. It starts at index 5 and it has a length of 1. That's the best that it could do. I don't see a ZE sequence anywhere in the master string. So this is the best that it can do. Okay, and then at that point, I would want to make a third call to this method, okay? And so if I could make a third method call, this time maybe I would give it just EN, okay? Is there an EN sequence anywhere in the master string? Yes, there is. It's right here. It starts at index 39, okay? And it's a 2-letter sequence. So it would say start 39, length 2. And what I would want to do then is I would want to put all of these string parts into an array list in order, and then make that my return. Now, I've got the find part method to help me. I don't know how it works. I don't care. But if I know what it's doing, it at least makes this problem manageable. That's the most important thing to part B, is that you can understand what that find part method is doing. You should not think to yourself, how can I write code to do this? How can I find a workaround? How can I do it my way? No, those are bad ideas. It doesn't matter how great of code you write. It could be a perfect working solution, but it wouldn't receive credit according to the College Board. So we've got to play by their rules, okay? So as I start writing this, and by the way, again, the kids that took this test did not get to see how find part was implemented. but I had to implement it into the replit to like let it work. Okay, so very first thing I'm going to do, since this method is demanding that I return an array list of string parts, is I'm going to make an array list of string parts. Okay, so here's your new array list of string parts, and then later I'm going to return this array list of string parts. Now, when I was running that find part method earlier, how many times did I run it? Well, I ran it 3 times. Does that mean I'm always going to run it 3 times? No. I'm going to keep running it until like there's nothing left of the string. See, the trick is, as I go from frozen to Zen, I need to chop off those 3 letters. I'll need to take a substring of the original string that's missing its first 3 letters. Why 3? Because that was the length that came back from this string part. That length tells me how many letters to chop off. Eventually, I'll have chopped off all of the letters, and there won't be anything left. So this sounds like a great opportunity to use a while loop. Okay, while word's length is greater than 0, there's more letters that we must convert into string parts. So now I need to use the string part method that we saw called find part. Okay, so give me a string part by calling the find part method and sending it the word here called string word. Okay, this find part method, remember, belongs to this class that we're writing code in, string coder. Okay, so we don't need to preface it at all. So we just call it, give it its string that it wants, and it's going to make a string part for you. I need to do a couple things with that part. I need to add that part to my list. Okay, so we could have done that in 1 line of code. This is fine. Okay, the other thing I need to do with that part is I need to take its length so that I can chop letters off of word. Now remember, word is now going to equal a substring of itself, and that substring is going to begin at whatever index is equal to the length of the part we're chopping off. So part.getLength. Okay, that way if we found a 3-letter string part, we'll chop off 3 letters from the front of the word. We keep doing that, eventually we're going to run out of letters. Okay, this should never carry out of bounds. That would be fictitious if it did. And then eventually when we're done, we'll return all of these string parts that we've placed into this array list. And I gave it a, I think it's probably the same, I don't remember actually. I think I put in a different word. So yeah, oh, I did the word computer. We could even try like the word frozen, for example. Okay, so let's see what happens if it tells me when I encode the word frozen, and then we could compare it back to the directions we saw: 29.351, 39.2, and yeah, 29.351, 39.2. Perfect. That's exactly what we were thinking would happen with the word frozen. So it appears that our method code's working. Okay. All right. So there you go. Like I said, it's a weird problem because you had to trust that method find part. And I think that the explanation of it probably could have been a little bit better, but you know, that's what the College Board gave these kids, and so that's what they had to deal with. All right. And if you didn't know, now you do.